So, hello, Paul. Hello, Ben. Really great to have you here. Welcome to this fireside conversation we're going to have without a fire. But yeah, it'd be great to learn more about what you're doing with Gecko, about you, some of your background. So let's start with the background first of all. I'm going to start with you, Paul, first. So tell us more about kind of about you, and then we'll switch over to Ben and hear more about Ben.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for having us. My background is ad tech, over a decade. I've spent the last 3 years building a brand to a household name in the marketplace that is aligned with Alphabet. And I've built 10 years off back of sales primarily. So a lot of that is working closely with clients in the marketplace to scale up campaigns, digital marketing efforts to supersede results and get traction scale in the performance marketing world. Um, yeah.
Very Ben,
So 5 years ago, I founded a renewable energy company, Freedom Energy Limited. I've worked in the industry for 15 years now, and I decided I wanted to go and try it on my own and uh, obviously build something that I can be proud of and that I can take forwards and generate a good revenue from. Uh, this led me to installing full solar PV install a year and a half ago, which has in turn led us back to Gecko AI, which came from quite a common question I get asked in the industry, which Paul asked a number of times as well, which was what tariff should I be on? Have I got enough battery storage? And what's the best way for me to utilize my solar PV system?
That's interesting. So that also answers the question: how do you meet? You met in his house or on his roof, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, in essence, our other halves have been friends, close friends since school days. So we crossed paths, and a number of years ago, prior to the installation, which I thought great opportunity to use him because it's a lifetime warranty. So in essence, utilize his company, and done a lot of trust and bet in his team, and I've seen his growth in his company in the last few years. So it was a no brainer.
So you were asking Ben about these questions. Now I made all those decisions around which panels to get, what system to have, what storage, all of that kind of stuff. You were left with that kind of post-purchase dilemma of now what? Yeah. Talk us through how that conversation went and how that led to Gecko.
Absolutely. So it's very complex landscape where there's a number of tariff combinations in smart tariffs these days with all the different providers. I think there's over 100 combinations at a minimum. And I was having question after question fired to Ben where, is this right? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Is my battery the best time to strategically dump or export back to the grid and get paid for that this time? I've got an EV charger, but I don't have an EV car. Should I be benefiting to get that? And overall, the complexity of it, trying to fathom a way of optimal performance with it, using my background of where I am. That's what I'm always trying to do, is optimally find the peak performance from anything I run and do. And that led to a lot of questions to Ben, which the conversation flew from there with how many other people were asking similar questions of his clients. And I think many conversations and meetups led us to the idea of Gecko AI, saying there's got to be a solution to this in the market. But when we came to look and try and find something that had that, it's not doesn't exist. It's not there. Um, and there's bits here and there from different providers and partners, but nothing to the architecture and what we want to do.
So in a nutshell, what is Gecko AI?
It's a home energy optimization app, and it optimizes to save money and save time to the consumer.
Well, that is in a nutshell. That's
It
it.
is, yeah.
So it's very easy to understand. But I guess yeah, is it it's obviously going to people who have a solar installation. Is it anyone with solar installation, or is it just new installations, old installations, families, people living on their own, social housing? Who is it for?
So we can obviously implement this on the existing infrastructure. Anyone that has a new PV installation, there's obviously route to markets through social housing, government grants, and
Reasonably installers, yeah. There's avenues of Ben's work and partnerships. He's got commercial partnerships that will allow exposure to the on much bigger mass when B2B models. B2C would sit very heavily with me and my background performance marketing, driving PPC, direct campaigns through native and social, and doing a lot of this. That's where I've got a lot of agency accounts with these big networks, Meta and so on, that allow me to target the B2C market heavily on performance model. Uh, Ben's background is heavily on the commercial side where he's got a B2B relationships that will elevate this. And a lot of that will sit with the installers who are MCS certificate registered to install these. And a lot of those installers can cohesively work with Gecko on a business model that will allow them to implement Gecko when they're installing.
So that's interesting to kind of split that kind of B2C, so the direct to consumer and the B2B of installer routes. Let's kind of dig into that in a little bit more. So, Paul, if you could tell us more about kind of what the benefit is for consumer. You've mentioned optimization, but that's not really a very exciting word, is it? Tell us more about what that is.
So, but due to the number of complexities there are within your system or PV system, whether it's the battery, the tariff, you've got exporting, importing, time of day usage, home profiling, which is how a user in their house will use it across a period of time. All of this adds so much complexity to the average your average customer, uh, and they don't want to be handling that. So I spend hours manually optimizing mine. I'd love to get that time back. Um, it's manually optimized and now saving me a lot of money on my system, but it's time, it's effort, it's remembering, it's recalling that you made these changes and then having to revert when you dumped a load on the grid. There's lots of manual stuff that you have to do. And in essence, that can cost you money as well if you forget to change it. So when I'm talking about optimization, I'm talking about the whole thing, the whole management of it, um, and having logic IP that we have in our formulas and things behind the scenes on the app that manages all of that. It remembers it. It takes that weight off the consumer and simply controls every element to efficiently get the most out of their systems.
So you mentioned two interesting things there in terms of optimizations and savings. You mentioned saving time, but also saving money. And you mentioned that you saved a lot. I mean, in orders of magnitude, how much are you saving in your system? How much would you expect others to save?
Yeah, I mean, it is all in the relation of the size of your system. There's a lot of variance and variables in play here. The angle of your house and the roof, all of this comes into play. But for my system, I've got a 14 solar panels, large ones, a 13 kilowatt battery. Um, in volume of how much I've saved, you're talking hundreds of pounds in the last 6 months to a year. You've had a very good summer, mind, but that still entails how I manage that system and manage the kilowatt hours coming in and out. So a lot of changes to tariffs, trial and error, essentially. Fine tuning things here and there, loyalty programs, all of these different things have an impact on our bottom line, in essence. And controlling all those in an automated way is the answer, really.
So you think that taking the manual example you have, adding on all this automation and all of this knowledge and data ingestion from all of these different sources, you could improve on even that impressive kind of return on investment. Do you think we can get to the point where consumers and users would actually be saving more than they're spending?
Yes. In essence, where I'm at now, where you're talking low double digits cost this summer, for example, it's not going to be necessarily that over the winter, but particularly in summer, I'm expecting now where I'm at with the manual that as soon as Gecko is plugged in on the scope of where we want to take it, I'll be made paid. Hopefully across the sunny summers that we have going forwards. Uh, let's hope. But this summer was especially good, and if I had the whole system automated, I would have been paid every month for my energy.
Wonderful. So not just saving money, but actually making money through business in Ohio.
Yeah.
That obviously makes the kind of calculation for consumers in terms of their return on investment for the purchase that they need to make a bit more attractive. So how does that go kind of installers?
So that helps drive the industry, obviously, if we can increase ROI or decrease ROIs on uh, solar PV investment. It's obviously going to open it up and make it more attractive for other users, which in turn will then decrease the costs to implement solar PV systems, making them more readily available for other people to install.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. And we talked about the consumer benefit. Let's talk about kind of more the B2B, kind of the installer side of things. Tell us more.
So, because this is quite a common question that I get asked is obviously what tariff should I be on? What should my system utilization strategy look like? This supports the installer in the first instance. Secondly, we can look at whether additional battery storage or additional technology would be an improvement. You know, if should have I had my panels on the roof for 10 years, is it worth me upgrading those panels, which obviously had to drive the existing infrastructure and industry that is there below.
It'll tell the user it's time to change your panels. The deficiencies they're losing 30-40% optimal performance. So at the cost of what a solar panel is now, with depreciation of these costs, batteries, solar panels, they're continually coming down. So it'll tell all users whether it's certain times to upgrade, new, and maximize their system again, which at the cost of where all products are going, it's making it more and more efficient to do so.
Interesting. So you're kind of closing that loop around the whole purchasing decision, bringing in more value into the installer side of the business, driving that side of the market, saving money, even making money for consumers as well. That feels like there's the two parts of a kind of three-legged stool. In my mind, you've got other things that are going on as well, like regulation, energy prices, and things like that. So where do you see the regulation in the UK going in a moment? The government, what they're doing, is this going to help or hinder?
So as of 2026, it would be a mandate that every new build property in the UK has to have solar PV installed on it. Uh, with the way that electricity prices are at the moment, should some of that narrative change from the government, it's still going to be cost effective for people to have solar PV on their property. So this is an exponentially growing market, which is projected to go from 1.8 million homes up to circa 4 million homes by 2030.
Or we know how many houses are needing to be built by this country and how far we are behind on that. So think about how many houses that then include solar panels on. That opens the opportunity to be B2B deals with developers and getting in there with these installers. There's multitude of avenues you can get in, secure deals with on a B2B level with the demand that's there and needed. Um, and then with carbon zero targets, it's expansive on how many opportunities and where the PV market is going over the next 5 years. I think it's 3 times. They want to spur it 3 times what it already is.
And I think you mentioned pricing of electricity as well. The UK's energy price for electricity is pretty high, as I understand it. Is is that going to be a driver? Will that change? Will that come down, or will we be looking at continually increasing prices?
I think there'll only ever be continually electricity cost rises throughout the industry, and I don't see that settling down or reducing in any way loop forward.
No, well, you've got the Henty.
Yeah, so Hinkley Point C has a power purchase agreement on it at 38p a unit for every unit of electricity which is introduced to the grid. Obviously, that has to be subsidized somewhere, i.e., is that the consumer? Would that have to come from government? Is there legislation that needs to be introduced which will support that added weight in the electricity infrastructure?
So I guess that's kind of almost like base costs. It's not really going to go much lower than 38
No.
things at 38 pounds. And that I think is quite a lot higher than our friends on the continent. Is that right?
It is. I mean, in terms of comparisons of the lower tier one countries across the world, the ones that are measured, USA, for example, I think is 2.5 times lower than what we are. Germany is 20%, 30% lower than we are. We are, if I'm not mistaken, without defining evidence, the most expensive electrical costs globally in the country. Yet in Europe and in line with many of those tier one countries, these guys have similar costs on the gas price, which drives the driver of what that electrical cost is. But if we're in line with them, why is our electrical cost that much higher? It doesn't really justify or make sense economically for charging through the nose these prices of energy to consumers in the UK.
So actually, as the energy price continues to go up in the wholesale market, this is even more justification and for the value that you can bring to consumers and not
Yeah,
in their domestic market.
exactly. Saving them money and bringing that problem. We're trying to resolve that by bringing some tech in there and optimizing it to the most efficient way possible. But not only it saves them money, saves them time and helps the environment. With the carbon zero and targets involved with that, the whole model works as one.
Mm. And rolling the clock forward 5 years, where do you think where do you hope Gecko to be? And what do you need to unlock a pathway to that vision? If you had a magic wand, what would you want?
Like the founders could roll away with this or run away with it, I should say. Um, I think I personally see how we have two different targets on that. The short term, let's say, look at 2 years, the driver will be getting into market, becoming a household name, and being recognized for doing that actual what we say it does, and getting it in the market as a household name and reputable, and something that anybody with storage should be having plugged in. If you're looking at the 5 years, we've got a model, hopefully with a system in hand that is replicable internationally. So taking that to other big markets where solar PV is in built into the ecosystem, the infrastructure of whatever country is there. Replicating it there is hopefully a target that will help within 5 years. Apart from that, there's other things like other subsidiaries of the company and other avenues that we can do. But I think the focus has to be the first 2 years and getting into market and becoming reputably sound.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to that? Anything that you personally wish?
If you gave me an answer, what I would exactly want tomorrow, it would be to implement it on a utility level scale. Um, and in a sense, provide cheaper, affordable energy for everyone.
I think that's the core here, because it's so expensive. Cost of living as a whole is expensive now in the UK, where answers have to come from somewhere. Disruptive tech has to be the answer in terms of bringing in opportunity to help a consumer lower those cost of living prices and doing what we can to maximize and optimize and get the most out of the systems we have. And that's where Gecko AI is, we're hoping, can take that and make a big difference.
Right. So, to kind of wrap this up, um, in 10 words or less, I'll ask you both this question. In 10 words or less, for those people who are watching us right now, what do you want them to go away thinking?
I think for me, it's what is the benefit from the system you're getting right now, compared to what it could be. I think, is it optimized to the most? It can be, and chances are it won't be.
So, I love your definition of 10 words, but that's great. But over to you.
You can implement this. Have you got the time to implement this?
Okay. Good. Great.
That's better than mine.
Short it. Well, thank you both. Yeah, thank you both for being part of the Impact Builder. Thank you for your time here, and I've learned a lot, and I hope you've enjoyed your time.
Yeah, and that's like it.
Thank you.